firm B, which means that firm A is at a competitive advantageous position as compared to firm B, and firm A can always keep the prices low as compared to firm B's product and earn higher profits, simply because it has slid down this curve much more faster and quickly than firm B. So here again, to reiterate, firms go abroad to achieve economies of scale effects, to achieve learning effects, to achieve this higher slide or quicker slide through this experience curve effect to achieve. And finally, this fourth very important advantage of international expansion. We know that firms usually, whether they have developed a new product, new technology, they take that technology and give it to or transfer it to their foreign subsidiaries. But important here is to understand that the new product or new technology or new skills or new ideas can also be developed in these foreign subsidiaries and could be transferred back to the parent organization or other foreign subsidiaries of the same organization. So look at McDonald's. Its subsidiary, its stores in France, they were not doing very well. So what did McDonald's stores in France did? They actually upgraded their store in terms of style, in terms of comfort. They also changed the menu, the decor of the restaurants, which actually helped bring back the business in line, and they started earning huge profits there. So when McDonald's headquarters, they got to know about this new idea, they thought, okay, this is a great idea. We need to customize certain of our features of our stores for certain markets. And the headquarters took that idea and has been implementing in various other markets and has been earning a greater return from it. So these are the various benefits of firms that accrue due to international expansion. Now look at what are the type of pressures that these multinational firms they face when they compete in global marketplace. We can categorize these pressures in two categories. One is when a firm faces a lot of competition in the global market such that they're competing on prices. When you're competing on prices, you're competing on lowering your costs as much as possible. That is, there are high pressures for cost reduction. Versus there could be some different types of pressures as well. For example, you are selling a product which might need to be customized according to the needs of the consumers in a different market, such that there is high pressure for local responsiveness. That is, to customize your product for that market. And different firms, if we look at this 2x2 figure, we can see that different firms find themselves in different quadrants depending on the industry they are in, the product they are selling, and also who are their competitors, and so on and so forth, and also where they are investing in. So if you look at firm B, it is facing a very high pressure to customize its product, but the pressure for reducing the costs are pretty low. Then there is firm A, for which it is selling a product which doesn't require much customization, very low pressures to actually customize, but there's very high pressure on this firm to keep its costs as low as possible. And then there are some unfortunate firms which find themselves in this fourth quadrant where we see firm C, which face both these pressures, that is to reduce their costs as well as to customize. But these are conflicting pressures, because we know if you are reducing your costs of producing something, you are compromising on the quality of the product, right? Similarly, if you are improving the quality of the product, making it more attractive for consumers to buy, then you are compromising on the cost of production. So for firm C, balancing these two pressures is very, very difficult, and they follow a different strategy from firm A and firm B. And let's look at what are the sources of these pressures. So if you look at cost pressures, for cost reduction pressures, they are usually common for commodity products that fill universal needs. For example, steel. that's a commodity product which serves universal needs. For example, products made by Intel, Motorola, such that you have semiconductors and so on and so forth. These products, you do not need any customization. Firms are competing on the basis of prices here. Then, if your own competitors are based in very low cost locations, that is, for example, they are making this product in China because of which their production cost is very low, and you are here making this product in the US, then you will be, to effectively compete with that firm, you will also have to, you will have to change the location of your production so as to bring the cost of production down. Then there are certain industries where there is always a persistent excess capacity. Whenever there is this excess capacity, that is, demand is or supply is more than the demand, then of course there is a huge cost reduction pressure on firms. And finally, if you look at consumers, if they are very powerful, they don't care if you increase the price of your product and the switching costs are very low and they simply can switch from using your product to your competitor's product, it again puts a very high cost reduction pressure on that firm. So these are some of the sources of pressures for cost reduction. Let's look at what are the factors which put pressure on firms to become more locally responsive. So different countries, they might differ in terms of the taste and preferences of their consumers, such that, for example, in the US, many people like big cars, trucks, utility trucks, right? Whereas if you look at European countries, people don't like big cars. They usually like smaller cars. So if an automobile maker is serving these two markets, it has to keep this point in mind to make and sell more bigger cars such as trucks and other sports utility vehicles for the US market and sell smaller cars in the European market. Similarly, there could be differences among countries in terms of traditional practices and infrastructure. For example, here in the US, we drive on the right-hand side of the road, such that the steering wheel is on the left, whereas in India or in Britain, we drive on the left-hand side of the road, and hence the steering wheel is on the right-hand side. So even if you are selling the same model of the car in both these countries, the US and the UK, you will have to change the position of the steering wheel to be able to sell these cars in these countries. Similarly, there could be differences in terms of distribution, how you're distributing your product in one country versus another country, and also there could be differences which are put forth by the host country regulations. For example, here in the US, any food item that is being sold has to be evaluated or tested by FDA. And you have to provide the nutritional information for that product on the packaging of that product. That's mandatory, which might not be mandatory in other countries. For example, let's say in China. So firms will have to customize, let's say, their packaging or the product quality on the basis of the host country government's demands. So these are the certain sources of pressures for both local responsiveness as well as cost reduction, because of which firms, multinational firms, they have to, depending on what kind of pressures they are facing and what is the level of those pressures, they follow 4 basic strategies: international strategy, localization strategy, global standardization strategy, and transnational strategy. And we are going to look at each one of them in greater detail. So let's look at international strategy, which is this. If you look at the first quadrant, lower left quadrant, here is a firm where it has no pressure, very low pressure to customize its product, and it doesn't even face huge competition, because of which there's little to no cost reduction pressures. Many firms, they saw themselves in this quadrant. For example, Xerox. In 1960s, Xerox, when it had come with this new printer, this technology, it was the only firm making this product, hence there was no competition. Hence, there was no pressure to reduce cost, and hence, because this was a new product, it didn't need to be customized for other markets. So, other firms which have also followed international strategy, Microsoft, Procter & Gamble, but of course they do not follow this strategy now. So during their initial years of establishing themselves in foreign markets, most firms actually follow international strategy, where they just take the same product that they're selling in the home market and then they sell the same product in the international markets without any customization, with minimal customization. Then, if you look at this upper left quadrant, you'll find firms which face very high pressures to reduce their cost because there are huge competition from their rival firms. But if you look at the local responsiveness pressures, they're pretty low. So firms which find themselves in this quadrant, they follow what is known as global standardization strategy. And what this strategy tells us is that these firms, they want to follow a low-cost strategy on a global level, such that they believe in standardization of products. They want to build universal brands. They want to build universal strategies. All this, and they want to achieve these low cost through economies of scale, through learning effects, and also through